Hi everyone, my name is Lori, my nickname is Reenie, and I'd like to welcome you to Reenie Bobini Creations. If this is the first time you've stopped by to check out my channel, I'd like to offer you a very warm welcome. I hope you like what you see, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing and sharing with your fellow crafters. If you are back again or you're one of my subscribers, that was hard to say this morning, I'm so glad you're back, and I think you'll like this one too. This is all made with Dollarama items. So we are going to make this little fall lantern, and coming up in the future, you're going to want to stay tuned. I've done some other ones with different motifs, different colors, and I really am pleased with the way they turned out. So let me stop yakking at you and we'll get on with the crafting. I'm going to make this look like a birch tree. Well, with birch trees on it. But to start, I don't want it to be this silver. So I'm just going to take some black and white paint and make it kind of look like we have this gray sky going on. So I'm just going to mix the two. And I figure if I do that, rather than using a straight gray, I'm going to have sort of that mottled, cloudy look. That's kind of what I'm going for here. So I'm not going to do this part, but I will do this and the rest of the top here. And so just randomly putting my white and gray. Now I've got a skinny foam brush that I'll use to get in closer here, but and in this part, but for overall I'm just going to just cloudy it up, make it look like it's a cloudy day. Okay, so now we're going to just take, oh, I missed a spot, hang on. Missed a spot, there we go. Okay, now again, you can tape off the glass if you want to. I find it's really easy to get off just a Q-tip and maybe some Windex or whatever, so I don't worry about it too much. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint this part white. Now you can certainly wait till the gray dries because we are eventually going to go up a little bit higher, but I'm going to get started by painting that white. Now you can see I still am going to have some gray in there. That's okay, because we are going to do some different blending and shading here after. And nothing to be intimidated by. If you haven't done shading and stuff, that's fine. Now you'll see the first coat always looks terrible. People think that they're doing it wrong because your first coat always is going to look terrible. It just does. You need to do the 2 or 3 coats to get it to where it needs to be. Now I am going to paint this white down here as well. That might change after, but it'll give us a base coat to work with, so I'm going to do that. And like I said, it's fine that some of the paints are mixing up a bit and they're not stark white. When we do our next coat, we'll be a little more concerned about it, but still not completely because of the way we're going to do our birch trees. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a couple of coats all the way around, and when that's dry and we're ready to move on, I'll come back and we'll carry on with this craft. Okay, so we're all painted up now, and don't worry about how messy the painting is because we're going to fix that and turn it into our tree. So the next thing we need to do is give the birch bark the characteristics of the birch bark. So I am going to go in with my black and just a touch of white just to lighten it, but just mostly black, and I'm just going to spread it on the end of the brush. And then all you do, this is so easy and they're so cute when they're done. Let's just make a couple of lines. And that's it. And you're going to do this randomly over all of the posts. Now you can do like a bigger circle, like a knot, and run out from that as well. And just whatever you feel like gives it that really birch feel. Then I have this little tool. Now if you don't have one, use the end of a paintbrush, toothpick, skewer, anything will work. I'm going to do the same sort of thing, just in the black and the white, just kind of make it not too stark. And I'm just going to add some dots. So you do not need to be a professional painter to do this by any stretch. You're even going to get a lesson in shading and how easy that can be as well. Just wherever you think it needs it. Now, if you're unsure about how you are with paintbrush, take just a piece of paper and just practice a few times before you do your lines. Now, I've been painting for quite a long time now, so it comes fairly straightforward to me, and the way the brush and the paint work. So if you're not sure, just practice on, I don't know, anything, piece of cardboard, whatever you got handy, before you get started. All right, so once that's dry, we're going to do a shading technique, but we need to wait for that to be dry, or we're just going to smudge our paint. So I'm just going to do all the posts. Okay, so that's the first go over. So now we're going to go in again, and I've got this espresso brown. You can use a burnt umber, whatever color you brown. I like this one just for this because it's a little bit lighter than the burnt umber. So it works pretty well, but whatever your personal preference is. And we're kind of going to do the same thing, but maybe not quite as many lines. So just to give it a little more depth and a little more color, we're going to go in with our same old paintbrush. And I'm just going to go, in some cases, right over top. Okay, so we've got the two colors on now. And now while I'm waiting for them to get good and dry, because we do want that to be really good and dry before we go on to the next shading step of it, I'm going to start making branches up. Now most of these branches are going to end up being covered, but just for the spots that maybe we need them, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. I'm going to go into the gray, but I want more white than gray, just so it's not all just one color. And coming up where the messy bit is, you're just going to make some branches and help hide that messy bit. Now, most of this, as I said, is going to be hidden, but just to give us an illusion as we're putting our leaves on after. And I'm just going to go up to the brim, because after that, I'm just going to do leaves, which you'll see how that's going to happen. And nothing fancy. It's just, most of this, like I said, is not going to show, so you don't have to be super perfect with it. It's just for the areas maybe we don't get good coverage on, or where the leaves aren't quite coming up, or down, I guess would be better. So I'm just gonna do some white branches, and I'm not, again, because we're going to cover the majority of them, I'm not going to do the birch bark thing. If I was going to have this as a birch tree without the leaves, I would add some of that, but because that's not what I'm doing with this one, I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so we got our sort of branches up. Again, I know it's a mess. We're not going to see most of it. So this doesn't have to be a professional job at all. So the next thing we're going to do, now that these are good and dry, we're going to shade. Now you will need a brush that looks similar to this. It doesn't have to be exactly the size, but you want it small enough for your edges, but you need that flat. If it doesn't have the wedge shape, that's okay, but you do want it to be flat. So we're going to dip our brush into the water, take off most of the water. And we're just going to take the one side and dip it in our brown paint. Now this is just plain old wax paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a stripe and sort of walk away from it with our paintbrush, if that makes sense. Just like that. Then we're going to come back to our tree and just starting at the top, we're going to just run our paintbrush all the way down. Now when it starts to do this, and it will start on the metal quite quickly, it means your brush is too dry. Now you don't want it too wet. So what I do is I just spray some on there, and then I can pick up just a drop. And that's usually enough. To get us through it. Now this paint, I'm finding on the metal, is soaking up the moisture really quick, so I'll probably have to go over it a few times, and you certainly can. You can go over it 2 or 3 times till you get the darkness or the lightness, however you want to say that works for you and your personal taste. So again, just dipping my paint. Now I'm not going to, in the water, I'm not going to pick up more paint this time. I'm going to walk back in to my paint. And then I'll walk back out again, and we'll do it again. Now I am pretty sure we're going to be pretty dry on that one. And I'm going to go over this again just to make it a little smoother. And again, if you've never done this before, grab yourself a piece of paper, got a piece of wood lying around, and just practice on there a couple times so you see how it feels, and then go in and do your piece. It isn't difficult at all. It's just a little patience, and it makes a huge difference on the effect. Now if you were going to, and we may do that too, you can do a highlight as well. Now of course there's nothing much lighter than white to use a highlight, but we may add a bit of a yellow just to give it a glow like the sun is on it. Okay, so I've got all the shading done. So now we're going to do some highlighting. Now, in a normal piece, if you were doing, you know, like a all brown piece, you might go black for your shading, or a darker brown for your shading, and then a white or a lighter brown for your highlighting. Well, of course, with white, it's as bright as you get. But I want it to kind of look like maybe the sun's going down and it's shining on it. So I've got this yellow. It's a bit too yellow for what we're doing. So I am definitely going to take some of my white and lighten it up considerably. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, but you're going to want to flip it so you're pulling your brush the easiest way. If you try and do it the other way, I find that it's very awkward to do it that way. It's possible, and maybe if you're more ambidextrous, would that apply here? I'm not sure. Than me, maybe it would work for you, but I just find if I can turn my piece upside down, I will. Now, I have been known to work on bigger pieces that you can't do that with, and so you just make it work. But if you can flip your your piece around and make it less awkward, that's the best way to do it. So again, I'm going to spray some of this water on here so I have enough. I'm finding it's probably very dry where I am too, so it's drying up quite quickly. But go into the lighter color, walk our brush out of it, and then just go up the other side of our tree. Alright, so we got all the shading and highlighting done. And again, don't worry about this stuff, it's going to come off so easy. If you want to cover it in tape, you sure can. I just find it so easy to get off. Sometimes it's hard to get the tape where you want it. But the acrylics come right off the glass, no problem. So now we kind of get to do the fun part. So I'm going to go back to this yellow. We need the fall colors. Now, I know it's Christmas time, but I want this to be a piece you can leave up, well, more than just winter, I guess. It's going to be fall, so maybe that is the same issue, but whatever. I'm going to do fall leaves because I love the look of the birch trees with the fall colors. So I'm going to use a red, a yellow, a green, and an orange for our leaves. And this is super simple, no skill is necessary. Okay, so there's all our colors. Now I have this, which is called a deerfoot brush, and it's perfect for this. But you don't have to have a deerfoot brush. You can just find something, similar-ish, and I'm sure you can improvise with whatever you have. But it's perfect for pouncing paint, and that's what we're going to do. So, we are not going to necessarily clean our brush in between each color, because we do want them to blend somewhat. So starting where our sort of ugly branches are, and we can clean those up if some of them show after, I'm just going to start with the yellow. And I'm just going to pounce. And I'm probably just going to keep adding the different colors. You can even throw some brown in. I got the brown still a little bit left from earlier. And pounce our paint in. Now what this is going to do is give you almost like a canopy. And the more you work with it and the more you mess with it, the better it gets. So at first it just kind of looks like a mess, but as you continue working with it, and when you're pouncing, it gives it a little texture as well. Now, I don't want a ton of green in there, but when you're looking at fall leaves, there's always a few green ones in there, so I did want to incorporate some. And we're just going to continue that all the way around. And I'm just going to go, I think, up to the top. I don't think I'll go all the way to the top. When you feel like your paintbrush is getting a little too mucky, go ahead back in and rinse her out and do it again. So as you can see, no real particular talent or acquired skill required for this particular craft. That's how we're going to do the whole thing. When that part's done, I'll come back, we'll do the final sort of touches to it and finish decorating it. Okay, so that's sort of the leaves all done. Now we are going to do something to just add to the, I guess, realism, although it's not really. And then I forgot that I had stopped filming, and I just sort of did the same thing with just the brown along the bottom. We're going to do more with that after, but I didn't realize my camera was not working at that moment. So anyway, to add to this, to the leaves, we are going to need one more kind of paintbrush. And again, it's a super easy technique. You don't need to be, a painter to do this. So something like like that brush and just see what you've got in your stash. And so this is a super easy technique as well. Now what we're going to do is just add a few that actually look like leaves over the canopy just to give it a little bit more realism. So we are going to just dip our paintbrush in the paint. You can do one color. I like to kind of do two on the brush. And then just with a twist motion, so hopefully you can see this, you're just going to lay your brush down and twist as you lift, and that will give you sort of a leaf. And you can do this in all the different colors and just here and there, and that's just going to give it a bit more so it looks like a canopy of leaves. And again, I'm not necessarily cleaning my brush in between each one, and just as many or as few as you like. And I am going to add some green ones in there as well. So this one is a little bit more, I don't know, labor intensive maybe. Still quite easy, and you've just learned a lot of new techniques if this isn't something you've done before. And you don't need to be perfect because leaves in the wild are not perfect. They never are. But just by giving a few of these here and there, it will really give that sort of feel of the leaves in the trees. And just be very random about it. And then as I go, I'm also going to put some as though they're falling, and just on the bottom and on the tree trunks themselves. And I am going to do some on the glass as well. Again, if this is something you haven't done before, and just to get the feel of it, go ahead and practice on a little piece of paper or something until you and it's just a twist as you lift. So you put the brush all the way down, and as you lift up, you just twist it. And you'll see I'm not cleaning the brush off in between. So I just stopped to clean the glass. I realized I hadn't done a very good job of it already, so we'll just go back to it. So yeah, we're gonna go, and we can go on the glass itself as well. And again, very random. Just think how the fall leaves fall. They don't fall in any particular pattern. So that's what we're going to do. Just keep it very random. All right, so our leaves are all on, and we're just going to do a couple of finishing touches to the outside here. So what we're going to do is, for the bottom, we're going to go into our sort of dull green, and we've got these yellows, and we're just going to give some wisps of grass. And again, super easy, no particular skill required. Just want a little bit of paint on your brush, and you're just going to give it some grass. Now, because it's fall, I'm also going to incorporate sort of our creamy yellow and maybe even some of this bright yellow, and just until I get the look I'm happy with. All right, and the last step for the outside before we clear coat it is I'm just going to put some random sticks so it looks like there's a few branches poking out. And to do that, I've just gone into the brown and a little bit of the black. And again, you're going to make a line, but you're going to turn your brush as you do it, and that'll give it sort of a random branchy pattern. And just here and there, just wherever you think. And if you don't like it, if something doesn't seem quite right, like that spot there got a bit thick, you can just touch her up. I think I'm pretty happy with that. So that will be the outside of our lantern. But now for the inside, I wanted to do a little scene in this one as well. Now you can just put a candle in it from here, and that would be lovely. But I'm going to put a little scene in it. Oh, and that's exactly what I wanted out, so that worked fine. Okay, so it's all painted and dried. We've got her all shaded. So it's just the last bit to do. So we're going to do the scene inside, and I've just pushed a piece of foam in here. You can use cotton balls, whatever you have on hand. And just to hide the foam, I've got these fall leaves, which I thought would work pretty good with what we're doing. So I'm just going to put some glue. Now this one's a high temp, which I probably shouldn't be using, but it's what I have handy at the moment. So it's probably going to melt it a bit, but I think it'll be okay. And I'm just going to cover the base with all the fall leaves. I do have to think about the fact that I need to get it back in there, so I'm just going to see if they'll go in or if I'm going to have to adjust. Oh yeah, they're bendy enough. Now we're going to do our scene, and I got these little trees from the Dollar, this was from the Dollar Tree actually. So I'm just going to put some glue on the base of those. And then I've got my little deer, so I'm just going to, this one I think I'm kind of going to cut off his legs just a little bit, like he's standing in, and then this one's going to be a little bit more, I think, just for the height, if you can see what I'm saying. So I'm just going to trim his legs off a bit. It's very easy to do, they can just snap right off. And it just kind of, I think I'm even going to take them down just a bit more. Ouch, sorry. I smashed my thumb this week and it's really sore. There, that ought to do it. Yeah, that should be good. So then I'll just put some hot glue on his feet or whatever. And if I feel like he's too wobbly, I may even just put a touch of glue and glue him to the tree. So we'll just see how he manages there. Oh, yep, we're going to put a little glue on the tree to help hold him there. And then with the smaller one, we'll do something similar. We'll keep his legs because he is smaller. And hopefully, I think I'm going to try and squeeze him into the foam a little bit and then glue him. So I'll just use my scissors to make a little indent somewhere. Maybe I want to go this way. And then again, I'm going to put a bead of hot glue where I made the hole. And I'll just sort of push him into that hole. And I'll just hold him until he's... So that's our little scene. And I think what you'll see... Oh, I should just squeeze that in a bit here. Help hold that down with some glue. Not sure why it popped out, but there we go. Let's do it. Well, that's our little scene. So we'll put them inside our lantern. I have to fiddle just a bit with those leaves to get them in, but that'll be fine. And there's our finished product. So that's our little scene in our lantern. So the only thing I'm going to do now is just give them a seal coat, just to seal all the paint in. I'm not going to do the windows. I think the seal coat will just cloud the windows, so I'm not going to do those. I'll just leave them as is, but I'll do all the rest of it. And I'm just actually going to use my Mod Podge is out in handy, makes a great seal coat, so I'm just going to use that, but you can use whatever you have on hand.